It all started for me, around 5 a.m. when my phone just started going off. I mean, it was incredible getting signal messages, messenger messages, WhatsApp messages from all across the country, from our reporters, and who are out, and also sharing, the Facebook Live video that you mentioned of an MP being detained. So there was, by 5:30 in the morning, it was already clear exactly what was going on. The internet lasted a little bit longer than that, and then all the phones and the internet went out, and it was a pretty chaotic morning, trying to work out what was going on. It's incredible what it's like to not have a phone and internet. But it came back on later in the morning, and our team was out there reporting. There was panic buying, as you mentioned, but after that, that was in the morning. After that, it was very calm it's been very calm on the streets, very quiet. I think people are just taking it all in, trying to digest what's going on. It's quite a confusing time, but I think everyone gets the message here, which is that the military is back in charge again.
Yeah, Tom, had there been a sign that the military were moving to make a step like this?
Really only since Tuesday or Wednesday last week. I mean, I think most analysts, people who watch the country closely, people who are living here as well, really did not see this coming, a week ago. The reasoning for that is, the military drafted this constitution and they set up this system. And, we assumed that they had done that in a way that no matter what the outcome of an election, they would always maintain enough control that they would be comfortable with that. But as you've mentioned, since the November election, which the NLD won in a landslide, the military has been pushing these allegations of electoral fraud, particularly since December. And the number, they started an investigation, and gradually they've been pushing up the number of votes that they say were suspect and potentially a sign of electoral fraud.
And Tom,
it's now at, I think, around 10 million. They say more than 10 million votes are suspect.
And has there been any evidence of fraud? Was there any cause for your publication to think there'd been any fraud?
No, I mean, I think it's important to note that on the day of the election, there's a representative from the military-aligned party, the USDP. They had representatives at every polling station in the country where they had candidates running, and they all signed off on the vote counting on the day. So I think we were surprised that these allegations then emerged, and what they say is that this is based on an analysis of the electoral roll, and they've been pointing to flaws in the electoral roll. For example, NRC, like national identity card numbers being repeated for different people on the electoral roll and these kinds of things. And they say they found 10 million examples of, potential sort of loopholes or gaps in the electoral roll that could be exploited. But, I mean, when there was no evidence on the day of electoral fraud, it just seems hard to see how there could, anything on that scale could have been perpetrated, and no real solid evidence has been put forward. I mean, the military has said this afternoon they're going to form a new election commission and check the electoral rolls again, and more information might come out. But I mean, it just didn't tally with what people observed on the ground.
Yeah, and of course, Aung San Suu Kyi's party had become extremely popular, winning 83% of the available seats. Do we know what's happened to her? We understand she's in detention. Do you know where she is?
No, we don't know where she is. I mean, we assume that she's in the capital, Naypyidaw, where she was detained early this morning, but we haven't heard anything since then. There was a letter purportedly from her posted to her party's Facebook page. There's been a lot of debate over whether that letter is genuine or not. It's very hard to work out because, the protagonists, most of them are under arrest now. So just even working out whether that letter is genuine or not has been very difficult. But no, we don't know where she is, and we don't know what's going to happen to those senior members of the NLD.
Yeah. You talked about things being a little calmer on the streets, Tom. You've experienced military rule before. How is this going to change life for people in Myanmar?
Well, it's still very unclear. I mean, I think this is one of the interesting things about the coup is that the military has tried to point to different sections of the Constitution that it has used to take power. And that suggests, and they have committed to abiding by the Constitution. So this is quite different from the last time we saw a coup in 1988, when they abolished the Constitution that was in force then, and it took them another 23 years to enact a new Constitution. What we haven't seen so far is a major roundup of activists, of ordinary NLD party members, of journalists, and that kind of thing. And I think it seems so far that that's something that the military wants to avoid. It wants to have a very orderly handover of power from the NLD to the military, possibly with a lighter touch. And I think another sort of evidence point for that is the fact that the phone and internet came back on in around sort of 4 or 5 hours. I think that that just suggests that they kind of want business as usual to continue, if that's possible. The senior general, who is now in charge because the acting president has handed over power, he released a statement saying that he was going to focus on not only reforming the Election Commission and elections, but also COVID-19 prevention, peace with ethnic armed groups, and sort of helping to revitalize the economy, which has been affected by COVID-19. So that all, to me, suggests that they don't want to have major disruption and mass arrests. But if people go out onto the streets and protest, we haven't seen signs of that yet, but if it happens, that equation could change. Yeah,
it's early days yet in this development. Tom, really great to get your update on all of that and perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bev.